Hi, welcome to Success from the Soul with Eesha Patel. And on this episode, I've got the wonderful Tyler Tolman. Tyler is I love that, a health expert, nutritionist, detox specialist, and he helps people heal from a lot of chronic diseases, including things like Lyme disease and even cancer and a variety of other things. So, Tyler, welcome. It is an absolute pleasure to have you here.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
So I really just want to dive in today because you have such a wealth of wisdom to offer people. And I want to start by going into your 7 principles of health. So could you give us an overview of what those principles are and just a little description of each one of them?
Sure. So principles, first off, mean kind of like foundational things. So a principle, I think of things as like non-negotiable. That's the things that we should like start from. Everybody should live by certain principles, and then from there you can smash it in life or do whatever. But these are like the foundational things probably we should have learned in school. And the 7 specifically are air, water, sunshine, exercise, whole foods, relationships, and passion. So these are the 7 kind of core principles that if you live by and observe and make sure that you're getting some level of quality out of each of these, you're going to experience what I call divine health. And divine health is an area where you have moments of bliss. You wake up excited in the morning, your feet are getting out of bed, you're creating your business, your good relationships. Life is a beautiful experience, what I would call like heaven on earth. So going back to the 7, I need to breathe clean air. Number 1, because air is related to a lot of different diseases. In fact, it's almost one of the number 1 factors that if you look at like big studies that have been brought together show like, air quality is a big one. So in my room, I have these massive palms. Literally, I got plants all around in my office. I got plants in the house. Plants clean the air. They produce oxygen. They clean out nasty chemicals from furniture, from paint, from all kinds of things, pets, whatever. So I've got that air. Water is very important. I'm pretty much composed of mostly water. We're liquid-based beings with a lot of liquids for our blood and for our lymphatic system to clean out waste and to build everything up. So making sure I have clean water. I don't want to drink chlorine because that kills all the good bacteria in my digestive system. I don't want to be drinking fluoride or some of these other things. And we're not going to get into that here, but we want to drink clean water. We want to get into the sun. Believe it or not, the sun is really good for us. It gives all life. The sun didn't change its mind one day and decide to start killing people and causing cancer. That's a big fat lie. People have cancer because of the shit that they constantly put into their bodies and chemicals on their bodies and in their bodies that leads to cancer. And all of these conversations are potentially controversial. So, what I do is I travel and I have these conversations at length, showing the science, showing the history, having, a little bit of argument potentially sometimes, but this is the basics: air, water, sunshine, basic foundation for life. Movement. So we want to move our bodies in dynamic ways of stretching, walking, getting the digestive system moving, breathing deeply from exercise. Sweating is getting toxins out. There's so many studies about sweating. Simple sauna or exercise create longevity. We want to be strong. We want to be supple. We don't want to be stuck inside of our bodies. So movement, and then so air, water, sunshine, exercise, whole foods. So we want to actually eat whole food, not just something that's processed out of food, like a processed sugar or processed wheat or processed dead or anything artificial color, artificial sweetener, artificial preservative. All these things have an impact to a degree. And the problem is so many foods these days that we're buying have little bits of all of these things and everything, and that accumulates and leads to disease. So we want to have a more wholesome, whole food diet. Fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, quality grains, foods prepared properly, foods at the right time, because we have a circadian cycle for eating as well. That includes the pancreas, digestion, so we don't want to be eating at certain times because we're not dealing with those foods as well. So we got whole foods. Then we have relationships. I think everybody knows this, quite obvious. If you are in a relationship and you're constantly fighting and hating somebody else, doesn't matter, somebody at work, your own partner, somebody over here, if you have this negative relationship, it just creates stress, cortisol, negativity. No good. And you could be literally breathing clean air, drinking clean water, eating good food, out in the sun, all these good things. And if your relationships are toxic, you're going to get sick, you're going to suppress, you're going to have stuff going on with your liver and other things. So relationships, and especially our relationship with ourselves, what we're telling ourselves. So mindset's a big part of that. There's a lot of conversations that fall into these different categories. And then passion. And when I say passion, it's more so just like doing things that you actually love, not just getting enrolled in, oh, I got to make money, I got to pay my bills, I got to do this thing because this is what I've been told, and I just 8 to 5 in something that I hate. If you're getting up at 5 in the morning, like, God, I got to go do this thing, this sucks. If you're doing that for years on end, no good. Sickness and disease is just a slap in the face, like, wake up. So that's it. These are the foundational principles. Breathe clean air, drink clean water, get out in the sun moderately, build a tan. Vitamin D is good for you. Eat actual whole foods that are alive without all the crap on them. Basic stuff. Look at your relationships and work towards improving your relationship with yourself and with others. We have the power to change the relationships. We know we do. Sometimes we're just not willing to show up for it. And then, finding things that we're really passionate about, what we love doing. And a lot of times it's easy to really focus on one of these. Oh, I'm a raw vegan or whatever. I'm on this diet and I'm all about my diet and what I put in my mouth, and I'm all hardcore about that. But, maybe you never do any exercise, or maybe you forgot to drink water, or maybe you have relationships with everybody because you hate everyone because of what they eat. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so it's about finding balance within all of these things that really, I believe, brings about a state of health, a solid foundation for us to really live pain-free, happy.
Thanks, Tyler. That's like the best spiel I've heard in a while. And what I love about it is that you make it sound so simple. I mean, it is simple, right? You follow the principles and life is awesome. But there are a lot of people out there who are not living that awesome life. Where do you think is the gap between, following these simple principles and the way that people are living right now?
Well, first of all, we have to know about the simple principles. So if you know, like, oh, there's these simple things that we need to live by, these are like our basic, kind of morals and values in life that we're going to live by, then you have to actually live by it, but it needs to be identified. A lot of people don't think about, air quality. Oh, I didn't know that I just bought a couch and it has formaldehyde on it. I didn't realize that I buy these electronics and these other things for my house or get it painted and I'm breathing toxic fumes all the time. They're unaware. I'm cooking some food and there's some gas going into the room. So, it's making people aware. Hey, awareness, consciousness is about being aware of something so that you can actually make a shift. So it's about becoming aware and then actually doing something about it. Oh, I could buy plants, put it in my house. Oh, there's an actual breathing exercise called 7 rounds of 7 that I could do. Oh, yeah, I didn't really think about that. I've kind of heard about that, but yeah, my tap water is probably toxic. And I got a filter on the fridge, so I just thought that was okay. Well, it probably doesn't get rid of fluoride and some of these other things. So it's a big piece of awareness, and even though they are the simple things, because they're simple, they kind of get overlooked, and we need to actually bring it back to foundational principles that say, actually, we need to spend some time on air because it is one of these number one things for lung disease, heart disease, all kinds of different disease conditions. So here's what we do. Water, here's what we do. Sunshine, this is probably the amount we should get. This is where our vitamin D levels should be naturally. That converts cholesterol. It makes you happy. There's a whole disease called SAD, which is seasonal affective disorder that people get when they're not getting out in the sun. So if we're not concentrating on getting enough vitamin D in the summer because we're working 9 to 5 every day and we're not really getting it in us, then in wintertime we become deficient. And they say 1 in 2 Australians, that's 50% of all Australians, are vitamin D deficient. Not just low, deficient. And if you're vitamin D deficient, you're going to be either depressed or have anxiety or potential suicidal tendencies. So those are majorly impacting somebody's life. But your endocrine system's not going to work properly. So you're probably going to have adrenal fatigue. You're probably going to have a thyroid issue. You know, that's metabolism. You start to put on excess fat and all these things. And, you know, people, oh, I got thyroid problems. Give me a pill. And it's like, well, do you get in the sun? Do you drink enough water? Do you exercise? Like, these are all the foundational principles for any disease. Before you go to a doctor and get a pill, you got to ask yourself the question, are you breathing? Are you drinking water? Are you exercising? Are you eating whole foods? Are you giving your body the nutritional components that it needs to actually function properly? Or are you poisoning it, right? So, you know, although I could say air, water, sunshine, exercise, like we could go into depth and really have some to-dos, but people literally need to invest in that. So it's like, this is the way the world works. It's like, hey, give me some money, and that's going to make you committed to actually doing something. You know, if somebody gives me $1,000 for me to tell them to do some things, that $1,000 are going to be like, oh, I'm actually going to do it. Whereas if I'm just like, hey, get a water filter, do this thing, do this other thing. Oh yeah, you're totally right. Yeah, you're onto it. Okay, yeah, see ya. And then they don't actually spend the time to modify the lifestyle in order to be living that divine kind of health so that you can channel your energy into your business, into your lifestyle, into your relationships. You have a better relationship with your family. And, you know, family is probably high on the list for a lot of people for their values. Entrepreneurship and making money is probably high on the list of values. But when it comes to health, it doesn't really show up on the value list because they're not tying it to those things. But the truth is, health is number one, should be the highest value because it's directly related to the health of your relationships, the health of your finances, the health of your business and creativity, and everything in your life is directly related to your health. And a lot of us can just run on adrenaline for a long time and we have youth on our side. But by the time you create that wealth and potentially have some good relationships, it's all going to crash if you haven't had that focus on these basic principles.
Amazing. I love that. So for these entrepreneurs who are watching this, what are some practical things that they can start implementing on a day-to-day so that they can start seeing more success?
Yeah, so, you know, every successful person that I've ever really looked into has an amazing morning routine. That means they're like early birds, they wake up and they have a routine. And that routine is setting the pace for the day. So, you know, the way our natural body cycles work is when we wake up in the morning, our body's naturally in a process of detoxification. That means we ate all the food last night, you know, digestion, all that's happening, assimilation's happening while we're sleeping. And then that process finishes. And then our body wants to detox all the things that we put in yesterday. That means that you want to pee, you want to poo, you want to sweat, you want to breathe deeply. These are the channels of detoxification. So in ancient cultures, which we can talk about a little bit later, like ancient Egypt, they lived by these kind of algorithms that they knew the body was naturally in a detox state in the morning. So they would never eat food first thing in the morning. They would make sure that they had at least 2 hours of activity and movement and going through processes of detoxification before they ate. So if you want to have breakfast at 8 o'clock, no problem. Just start at 6 o'clock going through all these processes so that your body's fully cleaned out from yesterday before you start again. Does that make sense?
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, and so what I would say is a morning routine. I have a very clear and systematic morning routine. I wake up, I drink my amount of water, you know, and I go through a specific process of moving my body. waking up my nervous system, my lymphatic system, go for a long walk, get my digestive system going from that water and that long walk. I'm having a poo, I'm having a pee. Then I, do things that make me sweat. So I open up my endocrine system with a very specific series of movements. It's also an ancient practice. Then I typically will do some jujitsu, which is a martial art. And when I'm doing that, I'm sweating, I'm smashing it. And by the end of that, I'm ready to like take a shower, clean myself, get ready for the day. And then I still do like, pretty advanced meditation to put me in a really positive, like centered state so that, when I'm on my calls and I'm doing my things, I'm like fully present and attracting wealth rather than not present and holding on to a bunch of shit and, pretty much turning everyone off and everything off in the process.
Yep, amazing. I think that's a very comprehensive system that you've just given people. I hope that the people that are listening to it actually go and start implementing this.
You can keep it simple. Drink water first. We need to hydrate the digestive system. So a lot of people just wake up, drink coffee or tea, but that's actually dehydrating. So wake up, drink water first, and then simply go for a long walk. And if you do that, just the process of walking is setting the pace for the day. You can listen to an audiobook of something that inspires you, get your mind like, oh yeah, especially if you're an entrepreneur, whatever is your genre within the entrepreneurship, be listening to those types of things, because that's going to give you the ideas that you can then make YouTube, Instagram videos, start having conversations, writing blogs, whatever it is. It's going to attract people into your field of expertise, so to speak. Drink water, go for a walk, inspire yourself during that time. And that's a really good way to start the day.
Perfect. I love it. Wouldn't have it any other way. So my question to you, Tyler, you're very knowledgeable in what you know about health. Where did you learn from?
So, my father was basically a fasting guru. So, I grew up with my mother, traditional American, traditional public McDonald's, that whole thing. And by the time I was about 13, I had an opportunity to go stay with my dad. He had a big farm, like 7 little ponds and like this huge place. And people were coming to his property with cancer, heart disease, skin conditions, digestive conditions, you name it. And every summer he would run fasting kind of camps, programs. So when I was 13, it was my first opportunity to go stay with him for a summer. My mom felt like I was old enough to go stay with him. She wanted me to have a good influence because I'd gotten into drugs and smoking and some crap. And yeah, I went out and I saw what he was doing and I was like, wow, completely different way of living, completely plant-based, drinking juices, fasting, consciousness, immortality, conversation, like a lot different, and loving, very open, hugging, loving, wasn't something I was really used to. So from that young age is like, bang, that's something different. And within a few years, I committed my life to going and living with him and completely leaving alcohol and drugs and everything to the side. And like, I want to commit my life to being of service and doing what my dad does. I'm one of 11 brothers and sisters. I'm the only one that's done that. Just fully like taking the torch and like, I'm here to be of service. So I learned from him for many years. Ancient Egypt was a big part of his learning in past. And so I adopted that and I started to search out other people that had information that came from Egypt. And I've really pulled a lot of information from ancient Egypt and reintroduced it to the public, and have tens of thousands of people cleaning their skin with something called gua sha, doing breathing exercises based on the same thing. Intermittent fasting is an ancient Egyptian practice, which is now very popular. But these are things that we were talking about, 25 years ago. Intermittent fasting, extended fasting, certain types of foods and herbs and essential oils and things that come from ancient Egypt. And it wasn't all from there, but a big portion of stuff definitely came from that kind of lineage. And that's where Hippocrates learned everything. So Hippocrates is known as the father of medicine. But he knew nothing from Greece about medicine whatsoever, or nature, or healing. Back in Greece, it was like, if you're sick, you pissed off the gods, go pray at the temple. That's your only option. And so when Hippocrates went to Egypt and stayed for 7 years, he became a physician. He actually trained in the temples, because each temple had a hospital, it had schooling, it had a library. Temples had everything. These days, we just see the remnants of the main kind of holy worshiping places, but they used to be massive complexes with lots of stuff going on. So Hippocrates stayed there, brought that information back to Greece, and basically laid the foundation for modern medicine. I said, let food be thy medicine. He adopted principles of heliotherapy, which is sunshine, hot cold therapy to reduce inflammation, to get circulation, like all these really amazing foundational principles for healing. And all of that just got kind of suppressed over time. And then, pharmaceutical drugs and surgeries. And, sometimes those things are necessary, but it's kind of like the only thing medical doctors do now is poison you or cut you or burn you. Most of the time they're giving you drugs, they're doing chemotherapy or using radiation or some form. And they've really lost track of the healing arts, which is unfortunate.
Tyler, why Egypt? Of all the civilizations out there, why is that the one that you're most fascinated by?
Because the Egyptians were not just trying to be healthy, they were trying to raise their consciousness and their physical body up to such a state as to what we would call maybe ascend, raise their vibration to a state of being in divine connection. And they believed and talked about quite openly the process of potentially becoming immortal. They said that there were many people who were immortals, meaning they had gone through a state and process of being able to regenerate themselves. And so for some reason, since I was a kid, like even before I met my dad, I had this inkling, like, why can't we live forever? Like, why do people die? That doesn't seem right. Like, why can't, the body's not just made in a factory in Japan. It's an organism and it regenerates. It's obvious. Like, our body regenerates itself. And, a lot of science is coming out about stem cells now and all these other things where the body can regenerate, telomeres, and how to rebuild telomeres, because these are one of the things that, keep people aging as they get older. And all of these things can be modified, and really some magic can happen with intermittent fasting, certain whole foods that provide certain nutrients that help with telomeres, et cetera, et cetera. So in general, the Egyptians were the cleanest, healthiest, happiest people that existed for thousands and thousands and thousands of years in a happy, healthy, beautiful, luscious situation. Like, you don't see that anywhere else, anywhere. And there were actual periods of hundreds and potentially even thousands of years with no standing military and no governing bodies of police. How do you do that? And there were millions of people, okay? There were massive cities of people. No police force, no military, just people walking around fully like essential oils, beautified, makeup, pyramids, hot water in everybody's home. Like, wait a second, we're being told that was the Dark Ages. Seriously? 4,000 BC? That was before like even the Bronze Age. Like, what's going on here? How did they build these pyramids? Oh yeah, they got some sticks, some logs, and some ropes. Come on.
Can we, I want to dive into this. This is fun. How are the pyramids actually built, Tyler? Tell us.
If anybody tells you they know how the pyramids were built, they're lying.
Pretty sure you and I have had this conversation. What do you think?
They had a profound technology of using sound. They had electricity. Okay, there's a lot of these images. I take tours to Egypt and show people the writing on the walls. So sound has some really interesting qualities, one of which is anti-gravity. And we know this, you know, you can go on YouTube and you can see these guys setting up these sound things like bong, and these things will just float in the air. Well, how does sound counteract gravity? That's kind of weird. So when you make a sound wave, you can make big sound waves, you can make fast sound waves, but when you make a wave and you put another wave, you create these like pockets inside of sound waves. And they could develop these pockets, literally producing sound over here and sound over here, and whatever's in the middle, then they could just move the sound source, whatever's in the middle would move with it. So I know it sounds crazy. I don't see anybody else talking about this, but they had electricity. That's one of the main reasons for the pyramids. Okay, so they had access to electricity. If you don't believe it, you have to look at all the gold plating. Like there's so many artifacts in Egypt that is gold plated. How do you make gold plated items? You have to have electricity. I mean, just ask anybody who gold plates jewelry. They have to have an electrical current inside of basically water with particles of gold, and then dip things and let it sit long enough for it to attract to the metal to gold plate. And yeah, there's so much more. You know, how were the pyramids built? When were they built? Who built them? Why were they built? What was their main functions? Like so many questions that need to be answered. And the problem is there's so many people who, you know, are supposedly channeling things, you know, and they probably have little half truth, like, oh yeah, they're really onto it, but then there's pieces that are completely off. Then you got people that are pure scientists, which are amazing, Graham Hancock and Robert Bouval and all these other amazing individuals who are like looking at the geological records of the Sphinx and like, this thing is not 4,000 years old or whatever it is. This thing's tens of thousands of years old based on the geological evidence of the watermarks. And then they're looking at other things and it doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up. So there's a lot of people who are really onto it, but nobody who's just like, well, what does the actual text say? And is there anyone who actually comes from the lineage, like the true mystery schools, who's been handed down this information, who can speak the language, read the writing, and knows all the details that make sense and adds up with everything that we can see? And so this is where I've dedicated, you know, tens of thousands of dollars and, you know, air miles around the world to meet with these people and spend extended periods of time learning the language, you know, actually going through the Hennifer Papyrus, the Edwin Smith Papyrus, you know, what we call the Book of the Dead, the Book of Coming Forth by Day. And when you spend ample amount of hours, you have 1,000 hours on just ancient Egyptian stuff, and truth seekers that are really sharing, and then also what everybody else is saying, you put it all together, it starts to make a lot of sense. And, you know, if I could divulge the essence of what I've discovered through all these processes, people would shit bricks and be like, oh my God, and then be excited about why we're here.
Because well, please tell us, Tyler. This is a very open space, and I'm sure my viewers in particular will be all over it, as I'm sure yours would too, actually.
We have some entrepreneurs as well that are looking for some really grounded stuff, so I'm open to whatever.
We can go as cosmic galactic crazy as you like, so if there's any cool stuff you want to share with us, please just go for it.
Well, what is the outcome you're looking for from this call? Like you were saying, like some practical things they could do to have more energy.
Yeah, but it's also about opening people's minds, you know, because in the entrepreneurial space, there are a lot of different people that are saying different things. And where I come from is that everything is energy and everything is consciousness. And the more that you can learn about that, that is actually foundational to everything. So, you know, a lot of this is actually diving into like the spirituality and the energy and the consciousness and actually where we come from, because when we understand where we come from, then our businesses have a different perspective to it. It's not just a business to make money. It's a business that has a vision, a mission, a purpose, something to do for the world. And most of the people that I work with are actually on the mission of planetary ascension. So like this sort of conversation around where we've come from and those roots is actually incredibly valuable to give that next level of grounding to what it is that they're bringing into the world.
Awesome. I love it. And yeah, I would agree 1,000% that if you want to be an entrepreneur, you want to make it in life, you want to be successful, you know, you want to make good money.
Comment on there. Let's just talk starships. I would love to.
That's what's underneath the pyramid. Okay.
Yeah.
That's still got a few years to be revealed. So back to this thing of if I'm an entrepreneur, you know, what's going to be my greatest way of being successful? And being successful looks like doing something that you're actually passionate about. Because if you're just trying to do something that you think is going to make you some money, or, you know, potentially be of service to people and make money, that's great. But if you're not really passionate about it, you're going to come to the end of that and just be like, oh, I've just wasted all this time doing this thing in exchange for money. This is the thing that we need to get past. Because that can be great. You know, oh yeah, people need this. I can provide it. That's cool. I can make money and I'm going to smash and spend all this time doing this thing. But is that really the core and the essence of what you want? Or should we spend some time getting to the core and essence of who we are, like truly heal ourselves and get to know thyself, and from that springing forth what you actually want to do in the world? And I know whatever it is you want to do in the world coming from a place of like, oh, this is just the juiciness, the magic, what I feel inspired by. When you focus on that, whether it's somebody else you're supporting and going with, or if it's you yourself wanting to create something, that's where the magic happens. That's where success is going to eventually come from. Maybe not everybody's ready for that, but being in alignment with something that really just gets you out of bed naturally and you're truly passionate about is the key to success. Underlying all the foundational stuff that you got to do and website and this and that and all these other things, it's coming from that pure place. And like, I want to birth something into the world, and this is what I would like it to look like, and being in action with it. So that's what I would say is number one. Then from the energetic side of things, you know, a lot of people are just like, hey, if you want to make money, work harder. You know, you got Gary Vaynerchuk, nothing bad. All these people out there in the world, amazing people, smashing it, you know, making good money, but it's not it. You can smash it, work harder, do more, show up, never sleep, go, doing all these things, and you're just going to burn yourself out. You're actually more effective by taking time off, taking care of yourself, and really showing up, being present in a higher state of consciousness, working on eliminating frustration and anger from your liver. Because energetically, if you're angry, resentful, frustrated, resentful, and angry, that's going to block your ability to be wealthy and to find success. If you're in a state of, this is shit, I hate my life, I have to work too hard, how can I make it? Doubt, fear, all this stuff. Doubt and fear are demons, essentially. And the more we feed those demons of fear and doubt, the stronger they get. And the more they have a negative impact here. So we need to banish those demons and be in a state of gratitude. I'm grateful for exactly where I'm at right here, right now. Gratitude for everything. And I'm grateful I have the opportunity to move forward doing this and coming from that space. We need to focus time and attention on what we actually want to create. So I want to create a program. You know, I want to go to Egypt. I want to take a bunch of people there. Okay, who else does something like that? What does it look like? And actually writing it out. Oh, you know, 12 days, seeing all the temples, private access to the pyramid, doing this piece and that piece. Who would I want to take with me? What kinds of things do I want to teach? What type of rituals? What type of processes? Like really map it out and hold that vision. So if you can every single day have a vision board on your phone somewhere where you're concentrating on that vision in a state of gratitude, like, wow, I love my life. I love that I have this opportunity to manifest this vision. I see the vision. I'm feeling it. I'm going to take little tiny action steps, reverse engineer the ultimate, what you'd like to have. Okay, let's reverse engineer that. Where do I need to start? And a lot of times that is about who's already done it and how did they do it. And they probably already gone through all the shit. Why not just ask some questions? And the reality is there's a lot of people that have done some amazing things in life. And if you just ask them, hey, you've done amazing things, it's great. Where'd you get started? How'd you do it? What'd you do? They're willing to share. And it's like, oh, cool. Yeah, that's going to save me years. All these things that you've already set up. So who, right? When is the perfect timing? Who can I bring into this? Who else is passionate about this? So, sometimes there's some foundational principles that could be discussed around like who could be involved, what are you doing, where are you going to set it up and do it, how specifically are you going to do it, and why should really be the core of all of it. From step one, why am I doing this? Does it actually feed my soul? Is this something I'm passionate about? Yes. Okay, cool. Now, who has already done it, and why would I go to that person? Why would I have these people involved with me in this vision? Ask the question, why are you here in front of me? Do you have the same vision? If not, you just here to make $1? Okay, I'm not interested. I want people who are enrolled in the vision to a degree.
Beautiful. I love that. That's some amazing advice, and so good to hear it from someone who is walking the talk, because I know you've been on this journey for a while and you have a very successful empire that you've created. I do want to come back to this crazy Egypt awesomeness. I feel like
avoiding it a little bit.
What's that?
I think I might be energetically avoiding it a little bit.
Well, I'm just going to nudge back over there a little, because I feel like the Egyptians had more, it was more than what they were doing. It was more than their rituals. And, there was a spiritual aspect to what it is that they were doing that was keeping them in alignment. And in particularly, I mean, just through conversations that you and I have had, that is so vital to being successful in anything, right? Like, that for me, I have my daily practices, and you've obviously tried the daily practices as well, and they're helpful. And for me, it's like, without that spiritual practice, everything else falls apart. So I would love to hear from you about like where, some of the roots of that spiritual practice, particularly in ancient Egypt.
Yeah, so the ancient Egyptians all knew that they were more than just this physical body. So from the time you were born and reared in Egypt, you knew, this is an incarnation of my soul that I'm having, and I'm here in this physical experience for a specific purpose. Everybody knew that. Okay, this is common knowledge. And if you know yourself to be more than just a physical body, and you are a soul on an evolutionary journey, and you've had many lifetimes and you will continue to have lifetimes beyond this, then it's like, okay, well, if I'm this evolving soul and I'm here in this physical experience, why am I here in this physical experience? And what do I need to do while I'm here? And that was very clear. That's what is not clear in life today. I'm just a fucking meat bag walking around, something blew up somewhere in the cosmos, big bang, some bacteria got together and somehow here I am, a conscious being. This is probably not your crowd, but this is civilization in general where we're from, right? People actually believe, there was a big bang and this is just, a big mess somehow created a Ferrari and humans, and we're just gonna live.
Natural and random selection, right?
We're just gonna live, and maybe we're just meant to have fun. This is random. When you die, that's it. So there's nothing to do. There's nothing to accomplish.
So what tools do you have or have you practiced that has helped you find that level of spiritual connection?
So I think it's an intellectual one first, like asking the intellectual question, why are we here? What are we? And where are we supposed to be going? And then looking to who were the most advanced healthy people ever, either existing currently today or in the past, and what were they doing and what were they sharing and what was going on there, and how can I do the same to pick up where they left off and potentially go where they were trying to go. And so when we look at the pyramids and we look at everything in the mathematics and the beauty and the geometry, Pythagoras, the father of geometry, spent 22 years there, learned everything, came out, Pythagorean Academy, was going through the same kind of path. I just know that's where it is. Herodotus, the great, traveled the world, like studying every culture around the world, literally, and came back and basically reported and would write whole things about different cultures and civilizations, and said the Egyptians are the cleanest, they're the happiest, they're the healthiest, they're the most religious of all cultures. And when we think about that word religious, what does that mean? Well, if I wake up every morning at 5 o'clock in the morning and drink water and go for a walk religiously, that's religious. So the people all had very specific things that, they all watched the sunrise. It's like the entire civilization. Imagine, like I'm talking most, and at certain periods. I'm not talking about the entire span of Egypt, but for long periods of time, the entire civilization would go out, watch the sunrise, activate their bodies, go through this process, moving the lymphatic system, opening the endocrine system, at least basic things. And then the ones who were like, hey, I'm here as a soul to advance my soul throughout this life. And to do that, I need to build energy for my energy body and for these other levels of things that exist with my physical body. They were basically doing their best to understand the spiritual reasons behind matter, to see and understand the energy behind matter. They realize we are energy beings. And when I say that, there are 9 specific bodies that I teach and share with people. And when I'm saying this, I mean like we have an etheric body, which is like an energy body. We have an emotional body. We have different aspects of our bodies that they knew about and that they were cultivating beyond just, eating food and doing basic things. So, I'm kind of just randomly spewing here.
I actually want to know more about the 9 bodies. Can you list what they are and tell us about them?
I could, but this isn't the right time for that. Like, I could pull out a book, show you an image, the 9 bodies, what they are, what they're about, how to cultivate them. But it's, that's a webinar just about the 9 bodies.
Right.
And I do this. Like I have a private Facebook group where people come and I teach them just about actually the 7 different aspects of evolution, the evolutionary states for this world. Like literally humans come into here first, evil humans, and they actually do evil acts when their soul is at a low level of evolution. They'll rape, they'll murder, they'll steal, they'll do all kinds of negative things. And there are evil humans that exist right now all around the world, and their souls are evolving through a process. And when they rape and they steal and they get caught and they get their heads chopped off or they get hung or they put in prison their whole life, their soul has a memory of that pain and they learn through that process. So the soul will go from an evil soul to what we're referred to as little humans. Little humans are just above evil because they have that pain and that soul memory. But if they can get away with it, they're still going to lie and cheat and steal if they think they can really get away with it, right? And this is where the saying goes, no good deed goes unpunished. If you actually try to do good things for people, but you're doing those good things for little or evil humans, they actually just want more. And they will actually do negative things against you because you've been tried to be of service. So in a lot of cases, being of service in a way of just giving money or buying things for people who are not at that level of soul evolution could be a negative thing. And the Egyptians also talk about what actually is a good deed. There are good deeds, partially good deeds, bad deeds, and partially bad deeds. And it is our deeds, it's the partially good deeds and the actual good deeds that we perform in life that raises our level of consciousness. It's when we're constantly being of service and doing good deeds that raises the consciousness and raises our soul up to the next levels of evolution, starting from evil, going to little human, and then to gentle human. Gentle humans live by the law of righteousness. They actually want to be good people. They want to do good by other people. They live by laws. They don't do bad things. They're genuinely honest. And society in general relies on having a lot of gentle type of human souls in it to be prosperous, to be clean, to be functioning in like a world superpower. The United States is full of gentle humans that actually just, pay their taxes, want to do good. That doesn't mean there's not evil humans, doesn't mean there's not little humans, but the majority of Australians, the majority of Americans, Canadians, Europeans, where there's structure and, order and law is mostly based on gentle humans. Then we have a level of masters. So masters are those souls that are coming back to assist other souls up to a higher degree, trying to get them to become either gentle humans or masters. Masters are the people who are out in the public teaching, sharing, hey, let's do this. Hey, what about this? And genuinely asking and questioning. They're the people that are on stage, people that are writing books, people that are passionate, living not only by the law of righteousness and doing good things, but bringing people's morals and ethics up a notch. Then beyond the master comes the sage. And the sage is someone who's integrated everything, learned so much and integrated it to the point to where they start to incorporate the principles and become it. So they start to really empower themselves, and the sage is starting to get tuned in, and the sage doesn't want to be out in the public, doesn't go stand up on stage and try to teach all the people. The sage literally like extracts themselves and will teach the masters. So the masters are attracted to sages, and the sage will teach them things. Then the masters go back out in the world and say, hey, this guy, this is what he's doing. He's freaking on to it. He's amazing, because that person is a master that has the ability to be attracted to the sage and go teach. And over time, if this master doesn't get stuck in the process of just trying to make money and teach and do all these things, they can also step into that sage type of energy and attract other masters. And this is where a lot of people get lost, because they're masters, they're doing all these things, but they're meant to go into us, especially at different times in life. This is where the Pythagorean theorem, the triangle and the square and the circle and all these things, there's different ages in our life where we should be moving more into our age of power. We have an age of youth, an age of power, and an age of wisdom. And we need to move into, at a certain point of our life, into an age of wisdom. A lot of people have a tough time there, and they want to stay in this power mode, but it's not a fit. A lot of people commit suicide. A lot of people get killed around this time because they don't like the shift, or they haven't prepared themselves for it. And, I could share a lot of the mathematics. It works in nines, and what this thing all looks like at different ages. But for example, when I was learning this from my sage, who was the Egyptian guy, he was showing me all these numbers. I thought, oh, who's somebody that's like famous that I could look at and see if they had like different points in their life that match up with this. And I don't know why. I think I thought of Robin Williams, because I think he had just recently died or something. I was like, oh, what about Robin Williams? And so I looked at all the points of the ages, and literally the point going from youth to power was like the exact point he started his first movie that took off. And then it like these different nodes and points, it was different major parts of his life. And it was actually the exact year he was meant to be shifting into the wisdom years. He fully checked out. It was just like, wow, like maybe there's something to this.
Why do you think that happened?
Well, I believe that certain souls, they're not ready for it. And so they would either try to stay in their power years, which is a different type of energy, but when they move into the wisdom years, it's not the same. So if you're trying to stay in one, but you're in the other, you become conflicted and it doesn't work. And all of a sudden, everything that used to work doesn't. And it's like, so you either become highly depressed or confused, or you just keep trying to do this, but it's just not effective. I hate to bring it up, but I feel my dad is in the same thing. Like my dad had amazing youth years, amazing power years, being a master out on stage, teaching, going, that type of person. And he's been saying it for so many years. Like, I just feel like I need to sit at home and write and be in my own space and fast and not do all this stuff. I'm talking the last, couple decades. Like 15 years ago, my dad's like, I just want to stop being on stage and teaching. I just need to like be at home and write and like do all this stuff. I'm like, Dad, why don't you? Like, let me go out. Let me go out and teach people and be the guy and, share all the info. But he couldn't get past that. He's like, no, I have to do this for money. I have to do this. This is the only way I know to survive, is to travel, from the United States to Australia 3 times a year, doing 10 city tours and base camps and like teaching people for decades, and knowing that he needed to like go into another stage of his life, but he didn't. And with that comes depression. With that potentially becomes alcoholism and all kinds of other things. And it's like, I get it. He's stuck just, he didn't establish, or maybe got kind of fucked over to a degree and didn't establish what he needed in order to become that sage, if that makes sense.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, I'm very conscious of all of this, which is why I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm training coaches, Heal Thyself Academy, training people to do what I do or what I used to do, which is speaking, which is consults, which is coaching, which is all these things that can support people. I'm training the masters so that when I have hundreds or thousands of these masters out speaking, running health retreats, doing consults, doing coaching, helping people heal, open up healing centers around the world, I'm fully extracted doing the process that I know needs to be done, but I literally can't do it while I'm caught up traveling, doing tours, speaking on stage, managing the business, and doing all these sorts of things. But I'm still in my power years heavily and will be for the next at least decade.
And rocking it while you're doing it.
Yeah, loving it. And, having that sage time, taking out, like we just did that 10-day water fast with all these other guys and like really going deep, like those are like kind of those sage moments. So
when you eventually transition into that full time, what does that look like for you?
It's a big question, because when I actually go into the practices that I know, there will be major shifts in my energy and in my actual physical body. And it will not be an easy thing to just go walking and being in public. So that's something that's coming that needs to be kind of managed and prepared for. Potentially massive property, all the right people, creating kind of, a heaven sanctuary on earth. And everybody that's involved in that kind of project is going on the same type of path, bringing people up so that as we are going through this process, everybody's doing it. So it's like, if you're being of the light and fully going through these practices, you don't notice the light is such a division in others around you. It's only when you really go from a high conscious state into society, driving into Sydney, that you realize like, holy shit. And then people see you and they don't know. And I'm talking about even still lower states. They're like, wow, there's something about this guy. He's just glowing. He's got this energy. Something's going on. But it'll go beyond that to the point where Like literally, if you see these people in the cities, people will be like, oh, who are you? And, let me worship you. And then if I worship you for a while, it's going to scare a bunch of people and we can stone you to death. Put you on a cross or whatever.
What's your vision for society? I know you have quite a big, like if you could wave a magic wand, what does that look like for you and for the world?
Well, my vision for society is probably very in sync with the New World Order and like what's being planned, in these like smart cities and things like that. Like, there's a lot of scary stuff involved with it, but my vision is very similar, just without the death ray of 5G and some of this other crap that's going on, or really figuring out ways to protect our energy and physical bodies from some of these advanced technologies. But yeah, I see organization, I see cleanliness, I see technologies and systems coming into place for public transport, more of the electric everything coming in, more of the solar energy, organization and structure, based on like the human body. And if we understand the human body, we can understand how to coexist and literally have 1 billion people in a city and have it be efficient, like sustainable, legit. Like right now we're like, oh my God, we got, millions of people in a city and it's hell and it's, it's toxicity and it's pollution and it's disgusting. Well, that's because we created those systems for that. Those systems can be changed. Every building can be green, literally, like be growing green and taking the energy of the sun. And organization where we can live together and deal with waste in ways that it's actually clean, it's beautiful, and it's amazing, and you can have 1 billion people literally in a city. Our human body, we're 76 trillion cells all packed together. 76 trillion. Okay? So if my body can figure out how to put billions of liver cells together, and it all works together to be a benefit for my body, we can do the same for cities. We can make Sydney like my liver and put a few billion people there, organized correctly, and make it work efficiently. And the whole, New World Order agenda is to actually create these smart cities where wherever you live, you have access to everything you need within a very short distance. Meaning I don't need to drive my car for an hour in traffic every single day to get to where I need to go on a daily basis. That's not efficient. I should be able to walk to work every day. I should be able to ride my bike to work every day. And a car should be something that's like a luxury when I want to go travel and see the mountains and take my family out or something else. But it shouldn't be necessary on your day-to-day basis. So if everybody could figure out how do I work and coexist and communicate within this area, and if you have 1 billion people, you got everything you need. You got the tech, you got the this, you got the that, whatever it is, all the people you need to be able to sell your product or have your idea or whatever. You get it?
I love it. I love it. I must admit, I am struggling to see it at the scale of 1 billion people, but the concept sounds cool.
So that's for the cities. Designing them in ways that's very sustainable and very active. It's becoming, social media becoming more active, community-based communication between humans. I see that happening more and more, working together. Maybe a tragedy or something will have to happen in order for us to do that, but I do see that coming. But that's the city side. I also see the potential for massive, beautiful properties. I'm working on one now, about 4,000 acres in northern New South Wales near Mount Warning, where it becomes more of a sustainable, 2.5 acres each, gardens, beautiful, sustainable housing, sustainable electricity, all this side of stuff, living in accordance with nature and having some space.
Yeah.
So those types of communities, cities, just,
I always feel like what you're saying is, I get that it's the future and it's, advancement and all that, but they say that the maximum amount of connections you can maintain is 150. And in a way, it sounds like, you're creating these little pockets where you've got less people not less people, but just everyone's within a smaller radius. So you actually have less of that global expansion that we have at the moment. Because right now, yeah, you're right, there is so much movement. Like I get on planes, once every few weeks, and there's a lot of that connection across the globe. Whereas if everything was within that little pocket, it's almost like, in a sense, we're going backwards to those old communities where you have your healer, you have your, I don't know, one of everything, and then that's your little 150 people.
Yeah, and the people that are in other cities, you don't need to go there anymore because they can just hologram into your living room.
Now that is cool.
You don't need to physically fly to another place and sit down. Everybody hologram into my living room. Let's have a conversation. Or, hey, I'm giving a presentation, guys. Put on your glasses. All right, here we are. I'm on stage, literally sitting right here. Now I can see everybody. They can see me. We can communicate. I can talk to them. Raise your hand. Yep. What's your question? And everything's fully interactive. I don't need to fly to Melbourne for that. So this is the technology that will be here very soon, especially with people like me talking about it. Like, hey, dickheads, we already have hologram technology. We already have all the technology. Somebody just do it.
This is cool. I love this. Cool conversation. I'm just going to take some time now to do a little summary and wrap up, because there's been a few little tangents today, which is always good fun. I love it. And the best kind of podcast is actually one where you don't know where it's going to go, and then it just kind of ends up being perfect. But yeah, so just to do a little recap, we started off today with just the 7 principles of health, and then we went into why health is actually the number one pillar for being successful. So for the entrepreneurs that are listening in, it's coming back to that idea that if you look after your body first and your relationships, and do the things that are actually looking after you, then everything else is successful from that point. And then I don't even know how to summarize the random Egyptian stuff, but then there's a bit of Egypt and a bit of technology and a bit of cool communities, and it's been fun. Is there anything else you want to add to that?
Again, if it's coming back to entrepreneurs and where I can actually add value, if people are interested in Egyptian stuff, obviously they could come into my groups and learn about that. But where I can actually add value to any entrepreneur is to make sure that you have health as a high value, and you're looking at these 7 areas of life and actually taking some action steps forward, setting up your morning to actually fill your own cup, hydrate, move, pee and poo, all that good stuff, detox, sweat, move your body, get inspired every single day. Have yourself a shower, have some form of maybe spiritual practice. The meditations that you do are quite phenomenal for energetically opening everything up and putting you into a really good state. So yeah, just having a practice where you're consistent with that is going to open you up into a space where you're going to be more of a beacon for wealth and health and all these sorts of things. And that's really what we need. We need more people that just are consistent with their daily lifestyle, filling their own cup so that they can fill up the cups of others.
Beautiful. And this is how we all rise together.
Totally.
Thanks, Tyler. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I will pop a link it just below. So anyone who wants to come and join your group, there's so much wisdom in this group. Like it's amazing. If you're not in it, you should definitely join, and just go check out what Tyler is doing with some of his projects and stuff, because there are people on this planet that are actually doing things that are having a mass scale impact and changing the world. And Tyler is definitely one of those people. So go follow him, go check it out. And thank you so much for your time today, Tyler. It's been amazing.
Thank you, Eesha. Love what you're doing as well. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much.